Remember, Mum?
I remember, I guess, possibly my first memory is going to Sunday school and being enrolled in the Cradle Club. I wouldn't have been 5. By the form it says I was only about a year, but that would be wrong. I guess then the biggest memory was going to state school.
Yeah.
And I think I may have mentioned my sister took me, and I wasn't 5, I was 4 3/4, I suppose you'd call it, and they wouldn't accept me. So Joy took me back to Mum, who immediately turned around and went back to the school. I think she must have been glad to get rid of me.
Yeah.
So I remember that, and I remember it vividly. I can even remember wearing a bonnet. It was a little organdy bonnet, and I possibly even went home lunchtime, because we always went home to school for lunch, and I think that would probably be memories. Merrick's may have been too, but I can't remember any of the first time. And remember sitting in the car. I suppose I was little, so the 4 of us were able to sit on the seat, plus the dog. There was always a dog. Joy was always very kind to me. Sylvia and I tolerated each other. She was very good to me, but we had differences occasionally.
Because you slept in the same bed too, didn't you?
Yes, we slept in the same bed. The 3 of us were in the one room. How we fitted, I've got no idea, with 2 wardrobes. I think there were 3 dressing tables, plus my dolls, prams and equipment.
Yeah.
There were cases under the bed with some of our possessions, and the lady who used to come to clean could only just go round the edges.
Yep.
I remember the lady who came to clean, she'd do the floors and jobs like that, and she always stopped to have lunch with us, and her name was Edie. And then we had another Edie living down the street a couple of doors away, and she went to live on a dairy farm at Gippsland, and they named all the cows after us. So there was a Sylvia Joyce Marjory cow. What else? I remember all the neighbours. There was a little boy down the street, and he used to come up and sit one side of our paling fence, and I used to sit in the garden, and we poked a hole through the wood, and that was our conversation.
Yeah,
I don't think he ever came in the garden, but most of our friends lived either close by, perhaps a few doors away, but we went into everybody's places.
Yeah.
I guess we'd know their kitchens, and perhaps the girls' bedrooms, but it was like a village.
Yeah, it would
bringing
be.
up, I would think, particularly for me, as we had relatives both in Clarendon Street and further a couple of streets away. I'm trying to other members. Merrick's played a very big part in our lives. I think we're extremely lucky to have that.
Yeah.
I was very well looked after. I think my father favoured me. He told Jim that I was Mother's favourite, but I don't think I think Jack was.
Right.
But Mum treated me very well. I didn't have to do any chores except perhaps a few messages. And she was quite happy to see me sitting in the corner with a book. And I really had a very good childhood.
That's terrific.
I guess. And then of course, as I got older, I followed the course of my sisters and went to high school and business college and on to the RACV, which was another experience altogether. And it was getting out into the world. I remember my first pay, which was £1, and I took it home and my mother said I could have it. And we had a gentleman for tea, a friend of my father's from interstate, and he said we ought to frame it. And I looked at him in horror. My pound note. But I was able to buy an overcoat with it, so that was the worth of it in those days.
Yeah, what colour was the
It
overcoat?
was a green overcoat.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Because later on, when I was in the army and I came down on leave, I was going through the wardrobe, and at those times you could sell your clothes. And I went and I sold my green overcoat.
Right.
I remember Jim laughing at me hocking my coat. But, so it still went on.
Yep.
In that way. What other memories would you want me to speak of?
What do you remember about joining the army, Mum?
I think you could not join the army or the women's forces unless you were 18. I was 18 and thinking about it. I thought about it a long while because it was I was nearer 19 when I applied. But I had first decided with my friend Lois we were going to join what was called the MWAS. They were the Australian medical women. We had visions of being at Heidelberg Hospital, but I presume we would have ended up as slushies.
Yeah.
But we didn't realise that then. In the meantime, Lois met an American serviceman and got married, so she of course was not going to join up. And I had a boyfriend at the time who was in the army, and I guess I thought, oh well, I'll join the army. I was the first one to leave home and the youngest, but my mother was quite encouraging. I asked her for permission on the paper because I knew my father would try to talk me out of it. I applied, and though the men were taken straight away, women had to go through aptitude tests and quite a rigmarole of intelligence and quite a lot of mental tests, and they would only pick those that they thought were suitable because we were the first lot and they wanted to get it right, I guess. I went for medical exams, which I passed, and the other aptitude tests, and I went to a place called Darley, which was a cooking camp, and I think it was 3 weeks in which we were issued uniforms, haircut, route marches, lectures, getting up early.
Where was Darley, Mum?
I think Darley was near Bacchus Marsh, and it was quite a big camp. One day we all looked up outside, and over the hill were all these little dark servicemen coming, and we thought they were Japanese, and there was a bit of a panic amongst them that they landed, and were given a series of injections, plus smallpox, etc., and told we could go on leave. Well, I had to struggle home with a case of civilian clothes, a gummy sack of army stuff, and sore arms. I eventually got home, and you're given a week's leave or something like that. And the first thing Sylvia said was, "You're getting in the bath." And she bathed and washed my hair because I was very sore and pretty miserable. But I recovered, and then I had orders to go to a place called, it was Seymour, but it wasn't Puckapunyal. Seymour had an army camp.
Yes,
And
out to on the east side.
I went with about 3 or 4 other girls, and my job there was in the post office. But I was only there for a few days. We were very well treated because we were the first girls there, and the men didn't quite know what to do with us for lunch, so they put us in a private hut, and they even put some flowers in a beer mug.
Oh, no.
And they asked us all out that night, but it was to a boxing match. Anyway, after a couple of days, they found out that I could do shorthand, and they sent me to Bandiana, telling me to get on the train and get off at Wodonga. Well, I got on the train, and of course there were no names on stations because of the occasion for the war. And eventually I got to Wodonga, but there was no army personnel there. And I had no idea it was Bandiana. So I saw an army truck and I said to the driver, "Would you know how I could get there?" He said, "Hop in." So, could have been anybody, but I hopped in. And he drove me to the army barracks for the ladies. And there, I thought, oh well, they'll find me tomorrow. Next somebody will give me a bed. And I went down to what we call the ablutions block.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh lovely, there's a private bathroom there, because people have been showered. So I luxuriated in this hot bath. Nobody was about. Next day I found it was the officer's bathroom. I just kept quiet.
Yeah.
So the next day, I'd been notified, and we either went by truck or marched a mile or so down the road to where we were at the headquarters. And after that it was a daily walk or bus drive. And sometimes Jim was in charge as we marched down the road. and it was a very, very hot day. Lois was my matron of honour.
Yeah.
Girlie was, and Lois and Barbara were attendants. I remember Lois stayed overnight, and in the morning she did my hair in a style of the day and helped me get ready. On the way, my father drove me to the church. On the way he stopped and he said, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because you can back out if you don't." I thought he was having me on, but he was quite serious. I think he would have faced up and let me go home if I wanted to.
Yeah, what church was that, Mum?
That was the Prince of Wales Park Methodist Church. Had been my Sunday school, and I knew the minister quite well. So we had quite a lot of people because Jim had all his relatives from Portland, as well as all the Lawrence side.
Yep.
And we had quite a very smart reception at what was called the Federal Hotel. But on our table we were not allowed to have liquor because I was not 21.
Right. So where was the Federal Hotel?
So, pardon?
Where was the Federal Hotel?
It was in, I think it was Collins Street.
Okay.
I'm not too sure.
Yep.
But I'm not sure about that. But after the reception, Uncle Bob drove Jim and I to another hotel, which was very smart. I think at that time it was one of the better ones, called the Menzies. And that would possibly might have been in Collins Street or Burke Street, where we stayed. But the next day we went home because it was my 21st birthday, and they used the second layer of the wedding cake as a birthday cake.
Yeah.
And then the following day we went to catch the train. We were going to Portland, but we were having a stopover at Geelong. We got on the platform of the station and all the Portland guests were going home on the same train. But we got off at Geelong, where we may have stayed 4 or 5 days, I can't recall. But after that we caught a bus or a train, and we stopped at Port Fairy, and I think I told you it was a hotel where I walked down the passage and opened the bathroom door, and there was a chook in the bathroom. Oh, Jim! From there we went to Portland and stayed at the hotel along the beachfront. But we visited all the relatives, particularly Jim's grandfather, Clay. A nice gentleman, and I met a lot of other cousins. Yeah. Gee, there were a lot. We went home on the train, and we went back to the Federal Hotel. We had one more night before we had to go back to camp, and we went in, and they said, "Oh, you can't book in. We only take married couples," because they thought we were sneaking in.
Yep.
And we said, "Well, we got married here last week." So it worked out. But we ended up, I think we had the equivalent of 20 cents, 2 shillings. And of course we caught the troop train back. But we'd spent everything we had. And we were not allowed to travel together on a troop train. So we only saw each other each end of the trip. So that was the story of that. Then we had many. I don't think you want to hear all the adventures of the housings, do you?
Yeah, tell us about living at Moreland and then moving to East Preston.
Jim was in hospital, and I went home I lived in Albury for about 3 months. And Jim would I was out of the army then, and Jim would bike in to work and back at the camp.
Gee, that was a long way.
He wasn't well, and he'd been in Bungilla Hospital, and they transferred him to, what's the name of the place?
That?
It's down here, not Heidelberg.
Stonington.
Stonington. And I went home to stay with my mother, and I'd visit him there. I went out when peace was declared, and of course he AWL from the hospital, and I think he was in Heidelberg for a little while. I'm not too sure about that. And when he got out, we went for 2 holidays. One, we went down to Merrick's for a time with nobody about because it was the end of winter, and peace had been declared. And then the other one, we had the family car of his father, and we went along the Coorong, which was very wild in those days, and up to Mildura along the Murray. And then we came back and we lived behind the shop at Sydney Road. It was like a house behind the shop. It did have another door as well as a shop. You could go down the sideway, and there was a porchway to the house. And at the back of that, they built a factory. So it was a large block of land, and his father had been making snowballs, but in a little bit of a lean-to in the shop. But now they had the factory, it was expanded, and both Jim and later, when Alan had finished schooling, he worked there too. Jim did a lot of the travelling for it. I did banking and helped a little bit with packing, but mostly I did housework and helped with the family. Always made the sweets for their tea, and of course with ice cream on top, that was pretty easy. We were there about 3 years, I would think, saving up to buy land. We bought a block of land in East Preston, and before we had the building, the Housing Commission commandeered it. So we had to pick another block, which we did in Green Street. As our house was beginning to be finished, unfortunately the builder went bankrupt. So that meant, though we had a 3/4 building, we lost the rest. And of course it put us back a lot because we had no front fence. I think we got his uncle to do the sewerage, and we never ever got a driveway because we were back to the pitch with that. I had good neighbours. We all stayed home minding our children. When we went there, I was I think about 7 months pregnant with Denise, and of course I went to the Sacred Heart Hospital, which was in Moreland, because that was where I'd where the shop was, where the Longs lived round the corner. Denise was born with medical intervention, and I did not see her for perhaps 24 hours or so, which seems to be a common thing in those days because the babies were not left with you. You stayed in bed for the best part of a fortnight, only swinging your legs out in the last few days. and the babies were only brought to you when they needed feeding. So I guess there was not a lot of what you'd call today bonding, because
Yep.
it was different times.
Yeah.
I remember after the birth the next morning, no, it must have been later that night, there were nuns who were looking after you, brought me this tray with a big silver lid on it, and I opened the lid and there was one saveloy sitting alone on a plate. My mother came in and I said, I love some cream cakes. So next time she visited with about a dozen cream cakes, which I shared round the ward. Now the next baby to come along was Greg, but he was born in Brunswick, not far from Sacred Heart, but the other side of Sydney Road, and of course the other side again, which meant it was Brunswick, but it was on the border.
Right.
Now, Greg was born in the morning. I went into the hospital and he was born a little after lunchtime. He had a mass of black hair, black curly hair. I think Denise stayed with her grandmother Long while I was in hospital. Next baby was Ashley, who was born at Airlie. That was a wild night. There was a storm, and Jim drove me over, and with the children in the back seat. That was a fairly quick birth in comparison to the others. And I think you all came over the next day, I'm not too sure on that. So that was our family. Well, we still lived at Green Street, but needed really another bedroom. So we started looking and I found a house we liked at East Reservoir, which had another room to add to our space. I would like to tell you all that I think life was much I don't know whether the word better would be it, but people seem to be much more eager to help. There were perhaps quite a few biases, but on the whole, people had a much more Christian outlook. I guess that's the word I can say. And I think it was a better world. Anyway, thanks for the ride. Ta-da!